This video is sponsored by Audible. I thought the second screen on the new ASUS Zenbook Pro Duo was just a gimmick, but the more I used it, the more I liked it, and now I wish Apple would do something like this too. Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals. We're talking about illustrators, designers, people who can carve Mount Rushmore out of cheese. And today, we're taking a look at the ASUS Zenbook Pro Duo, a 15-inch laptop with two screens aimed at creatives. The thing about gimmicks is that if you're someone who wants to do a slideshow from across the room with your tablet or phone, this is not a gimmick. This is a killer feature. If you're someone who really wants to turn on your house lights using your watch, that's not a gimmick, that's a killer feature. If you want a refrigerator that's able to cut potatoes, roast them to just the perfect amount of crispness while adding a little bit of salt and a touch of rosemary to them, then the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle commemorative wedding smart fridge isn't a gimmick, it's a killer feature. But joking aside, it's really a great fridge. You should check out my review down in the description below. And as I was using the Pro Duo, I quickly realized that for me, that second screen, it wasn't a gimmick, it was a killer feature. This would have been the perfect laptop for Brad from like 5 years ago. Hi, I'm Brad from the past. Back then, I was working on site with clients. It just wasn't practical for me to drag a Cintiq with a big power brick and a bunch of cables around just so I could use it a little bit here and a little bit there. I was a UX designer. I would have loved to have sketched digitally or taken notes or added a small illustration elements to my designs. I just want to add little illustrated elements to my designs. Even though this comes with a pen that will work on either screen, I don't think this is a great laptop for people who draw full time, 8 hours a day. This laptop comes in two configurations. This is the lower end config, but it is no slouch. There's an i7 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, a full terabyte SSD hard drive, and an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060. Is it a gaming laptop? It could be. The styling is inspired by gaming laptops, but I don't feel like the design itself is over the top. I tend to prefer minimalist design in my hardware, like what Microsoft is doing with their Surface line. This laptop is definitely not that. There are a lot of angles and things going on here, but they also feel pretty tasteful. I could have taken this into a client meeting and still looked professional.
I look so professional.
Something I don't think I really could have pulled off with a lot of gaming laptops. And this is a really well-performing laptop. You're not going to run into the same performance issues you might see on, say, its ultra portable competitors, but that comes with some trade-offs. For example, this is a pretty heavy machine at 5.4 pounds. And the battery life is just okay. I would say I got about 3 hours on average out of it. And that's just a trade-off you're making. More power means less battery life. One thing that it does pull from the gaming world is it seems to understand how air works, something that Apple seems to have forgotten over the years. First, there are huge vents along the side that help pull hot air out of the laptop. And one of the key design features is the way that it opens up, and the bottom of the hinge actually pulls the back or the bottom of that laptop up off your desk, giving it even more airflow underneath and helping to keep it cool. Along the sides, we got a good number of ports here. We've got two standard USB ports, a USB-C Thunderbolt port, an HDMI port, and a headphone jack. Of course it has a headphone jack. Everything has a headphone jack. Aw, bless your heart, younger Brad. I did miss having an SD card slot somewhere on the computer for my camera cards, but it wasn't the end of the world. The keyboard is pulled forward to accommodate that second screen. That decision has a couple repercussions. First, it doesn't give you much room for the trackpad, so they ended up moving that off to the right-hand side next to the keyboard. It's a lot narrower than most trackpads, and it's functional, but if you want to get the most out of your computer, you're probably going to want to attach a mouse to it. As an added bonus, you can toggle that trackpad into a number keypad by long pressing on the upper right-hand corner. Another change that comes with the keyboard being pulled up closer is there's nowhere for your palms to rest when you're typing. So in the box, they included a little ergonomic ramp to make it far more comfortable to use when you're on a desk. I spend a good chunk of my week designing or illustrating, and when I do that, I love to listen to audiobooks, so I was really excited when Audible reached out to me to sponsor this video today. I've been a customer for years, and I've accumulated a pretty large collection of audiobooks over on Audible. I can access my library on my phone, my computer, my tablet, pretty much anywhere. With your membership, you get one audiobook a month plus 30% off any regularly priced audiobook. There's also Audible Originals. These are exclusive audio titles created by celebrated storytellers from the worlds as diverse as theater, journalism, literature, and more. If you're looking for something to get you started, I would recommend To Pixar and Beyond by Lawrence Levy. It's a story of how Pixar went from one of Steve Jobs' passion projects into one of the biggest animation studios in the world. Such an amazing story. Get your first audiobook for free, plus 2 Audible Originals when you try Audible for 30 days. Visit audible.com/BradColbo, or if you're in the US, text Brad Colbo to 500-500. Again, that's audible.com/BradColbo or text Brad Colbo to 500-500. Both screens are touch screens. Both screens also work with the pen. The top screen is a full 4K 3840 pixels by 2160 pixels, and they look amazing. It's an OLED display and it leaves a great first impression. It's crazy bright. That's crazy bright. I did turn the brightness down. It's also a glossy screen. If you get in close, you can see a pixel pattern. Probably not something you're really gonna notice if you're sitting, a foot or two away from it, like the normal laptop distance. There's also a little sticker along the back that says it's Pantone certified. I think that's a fancy way of saying that it's pre-calibrated to have accurate colors already. I was pretty curious, so I plugged in my own calibrator, tried it out, and yeah, looks pretty similar. The bottom screen is what they call 4K wide, so that's 3840 pixels by only 1100 pixels because it's shorter. And it's also a matte screen. That's something that doesn't come across in a lot of the promotional photos online. Because it is a matte finish, it's not as crisp and as bright as the top display in front of it, and becomes really noticeable when you put those two things together. But there are some really good reasons why that's a matte display. The first is that it lays almost flat, so ceiling lights would render a really glossy display almost unusable with all the glare you're gonna get. The second reason is that it's just a better feeling surface to draw on. It's not as slick and it gives you more drawing control. There wasn't one thing that made me say, wow, I love this. I can't put my finger on it. Instead, it was just a bunch of little things that added up over time. Apple has their touch bar, but this is like the touch bar on steroids. Instead of just having app controls and a long bar, you have the entire apps. You can put your music there, I can scroll through Twitter, or just have some file folders that I'm accessing while I'm working on a project. I've used touchscreen Windows computers before, and one thing that's pretty common with me is that after I get over the novelty of actually having a touchscreen in front of me, I pretty much never use it. I use it like a traditional laptop, pretty much using the mouse and keyboard to get around, unless I'm actually drawing and I fold it into some format just to do that. What this does, by bringing that second screen lower, right where your hands are on the keyboard anyway, is it makes it so much more usable. Everything is within hand's reach. Not just for touch, but using the pen too. ASUS has added some software here to make the second screen more useful. You can drag anything you want down there at any time, and just like having a second monitor attached to your computer. But they've added some bells and whistles here with their Screen Plus Pro software. You can snap apps to full screen or half screen or a third of the screen. And when you get things set up just the right way, you can save that as a configuration. I had one configuration with Twitter, my email, and my music set up in it. I had another configuration where I just had Sketchable take up the entire space. What was really cool about the configurations is it's easy to just switch between them really quickly. So if I had some thoughts and I wanted to jot down some notes, boom, flip between, grab the pen, just write it down. It does a bunch of other stuff too, but another feature I found really useful was being able to swap screens with the push of a button. If I'm working in Photoshop and I just want to draw something for a minute or two, I just press on the button. It flips screens. It does take a second to rearrange and resize all the windows, but then I can draw with the stylus and flip it back. If you're looking for a pure art laptop, this is not it. For sketching, photo retouching, some light drawing, this is a great product. But if you're looking for something where you're gonna be doing art full time, 8 hours a day, there's some better options out there. The biggest drawback here is the pen itself. It uses N-Trig technology like the Microsoft Surface lines. Now there are pros and there are cons to N-Trig. The biggest pro is palm rejection. It's great. The downside here is line quality. It's pretty shaky, and the stylus, there's a lot more jitter in the pen, especially when you're drawing slower and more precise lines on angles. You have to draw pretty fast before you can start to get rid of those imperfections. Since this channel tends to cater towards illustrators more than designers, I think this is going to be by far the most disappointing aspect of this laptop. And if you're wondering if the top screen performs any better, unfortunately, I don't have good news for you there either. I'm finding the same performance no matter which screen I use. This isn't the only Windows product that is held back by the use of N-Trig technology, but it is one of the more disappointing ones because every other aspect of this laptop is so good. I think most of this video has been about me outlining the things I like, the pros of this product. Overall, the second screen is just so darn useful. The other side of that is you are making some compromises. If you love to use a trackpad, this one is kind of narrow. You know, you got to pick up your finger just to get across the entirety of the screen. It's also really heavy. It also sucks up a lot of power, so you don't get the battery life that you get in like an ultra portable. But I don't think all of these are necessarily bad things. They're more nitpicks. I would say the bad thing, if you're looking at it from a purely illustration standpoint, is that pen. There are some other nitpicks out there that I think are worth mentioning here. The build quality is hit or miss. There are a lot of seams, and the main thing that worries me is that some of the plastic parts don't seem sturdy enough to hold everything that's inside this computer in. It's bulging in spots. I'm worried that if I or anybody else ever grabbed a screwdriver and tried to loosen some of those panels, they'd come flying off at me and never go back on. And if they're bulging on a brand new out-of-the-box computer, does that mean at some point those are gonna break? Jumping between screens isn't fluid. When I grab a window and I drag it down to the bottom screen, when I get about halfway, the entire thing freezes for about a half a second. Same thing when I flip my apps from that bottom screen to the top screen. There is some blinking that goes on while things are resizing and moving around. And I guess some of that is just to be expected when you're moving from one monitor to the other monitor, having it blink and glitch in like that. However, we're living in a world with smartphones and tablets that are just buttery smooth and really great UI experiences. I would love to see that continue on in the Windows laptops at some point in the future too. Now, these nitpicks are not game breakers by any stretch of the imagination, but there are things I at least wanted to point out as things that could definitely be improved in the future. Overall, I love this laptop, and not just for art. I spend a good amount of my time making videos. I'm producing a good portion of this video on this laptop too. It is phenomenal for video editing. Being able to take all those tools, put them down on the second screen. There's so many uses that I haven't even scratched the surface for, but pretty much everything I do in my workflow can be improved by having a small screen like this on my laptop. I hope this is something that more companies adopt in the future. We saw the Surface Neo that was introduced. It looks like it's doing some of that stuff. I would love to see more of this form factor. What do you think? Let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in a couple of days.